What's up everyone, this is Ryan with UniqueApps.com. Today's video I'm actually going to cover 10 steps to preserving your iPhone battery life. Now those of you that have owned an iPhone for any amount of time know that this little battery indicator up here is very precious, especially when your battery is about to die and you still need to use your phone. So these 10 steps I'm going to cover are what I use if I'm away from a power source and I need to preserve my battery. So the first step is obviously if you don't need to use your phone for the next 2 or 3 hours, go ahead and power it off. Touch and hold the lock button up here and power your phone off completely by sliding this red slider over. Obviously I'm not going to power it off right now, but that's the most efficient use of your battery time or your battery life when you're not using it at all. The next step, or the second tip, is to turn your Bluetooth off. Bluetooth is basically used to pair your device to like a hands-free little earpiece or a hands-free car kit. If you're not using your Bluetooth, go ahead and make sure it's powered off. I just clicked on the settings tab. Now I'm going to scroll down here and click on general, and then I'm going to click on Bluetooth. Mine's already off right now, but I'm actually surprised of the many iPhones that I see that have Bluetooth consistently on when they're never pairing it. Because what Bluetooth will do is it'll search out and look for devices to pair your iPhone to. So if you're not using it or don't plan on using Bluetooth, go ahead and make sure that's turned off. The third tip is to turn your push email notifications off. So I'm going to go back home, and this is in the settings tab again. So I'm going to open up settings. I'm going to scroll down to my mail, and I'm going to click on mail right here. And make sure your push right now it says fetch new data. Right now it's on push. If you don't need to be, sorry I just bumped the camera there. If you don't need to be waiting on an urgent email or something, go ahead and turn your push notifications off. With these on right now, wherever you have the phone set, every time, let's say if it's set for 15 minutes, every 15 minutes your phone is sending out a signal to see if there's any new emails left. So if you're trying to preserve your battery life, go ahead and push that off. If it needs to be on, I'd recommend putting it to the manual setting, which I have right now. So if your push notifications are set to manual, your email won't download until you actually open up your mail application. So if it has to be on, I'd recommend it to manually. If you're not worried about your battery life, go ahead and select whatever you want. The fourth tip is to go ahead and turn your automatic Wi-Fi off. So I'm in the settings here again, and my Wi-Fi is already off, but go ahead and select this. If your Wi-Fi is set to on, it's going to ask you to join a network anytime you come into range. So if you want to save your battery life, go ahead and turn your Wi-Fi off. The fifth tip is to turn off your iPod's EQ. What the EQ is it basically enhances the key frequencies to your music. So I'm in the settings again here, and I'm going to select iPod this time. So you'll notice my EQ now is off, but if I didn't want to do the volume limit, I want to do EQ. So you'll notice all these different EQ frequencies. So we have acoustic, we have bass booster, bass reducer. When these are selected, this automatically enhances your music. Again, if you're listening to your iPod for a long time, you want to save your battery life, go ahead and turn your EQ off. The sixth tip is to actually close applications. You'd be surprised, including myself, of how many times I actually have to turn airplane mode off for this. But let's say that I'm in Google Maps right now. So I'm going to find Google Maps. Let's say that I'm searching for directions, and I find the directions here, and I just I turn my iPhone to sleep. Google Maps is still running on my iPhone right now, even though I have it set to sleep. So make sure that before you put your phone to sleep, that you close any applications. So you'll see if I turn my iPhone on, Google Maps is still running. So make sure when you're in any application, whether it be a game or Google Maps or your mail, make sure you exit out of that application by clicking the home button and then putting your iPhone to sleep. So that's the sixth tip. The seventh tip is actually more or less a few different common things. First off, if you're wanting to save, let's say you need your phone working, be sure to stay out of any battery battery sucking, I guess you can say, applications. For instance, anything that uses GPS, such as Google Maps or any navigation system, is a huge drain on your battery life. If you don't need to be using Google Maps or navigation, don't use it, because it will drain your battery very quickly. Also, games on your iPhone will drain your battery very quickly, especially graphic intense games. So if you need to save some battery life, don't be playing a lot of games. Also, your iPod. Your iPod, actually, the music doesn't drain a lot, but the video on the iPod drains a lot of battery really quickly. So don't be watching a lot of video if you're trying to save your battery life. The 8th tip is actual airplane mode. If you're just going to be using your iPod, nothing else, go ahead and turn your airplane mode on, which is this first setting up here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now it's going to go to airplane mode, where you won't receive any calls, any text messages. But something that you maybe not know, and this isn't really a battery tip, this will actually use more battery life, but you can still use Wi-Fi while you're in airplane mode by just selecting Wi-Fi and turning on your Wi-Fi on. And I'm not going to do that in this tip, but if you want to still browse the internet and stuff but just not receive calls, go ahead and turn your Wi-Fi on while you're in airplane mode. The 9th tip, and again, this really isn't a tip, but this is just something cool, and I believe this is only on the 3GS. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that this is only on this the 3GS. You can actually see, instead of seeing a battery indicator right here, you can actually see your percentage of the battery that's left. So I'm in settings right now. I'm going to click on general down here, and I'm going to click on usage. And there's actually battery percentage. Right now it's set to off. I can click this and it'll go on, and you could see that right now I have 57% of my battery life left. So that's the 9th. Again, that's not really a tip for saving battery life, but on the 3GS it's kind of cool. It lets you know, okay, I only have 57%. You know, I may need to turn some things off or stop using some things. So that's just kind of neat. I'm going to turn that off right now. And the 9th or the 10th and final tip for preserving your battery life, if you need to be using your phone for what it's meant to, again, you need to be on the internet, you need to be on the phone, you need to be playing games, listening to music, you need to be doing everything, but you want to still preserve some of your battery life, go ahead and turn your brightness as far down as possible, and also take off the auto brightness. So turn this off and turn your brightness down as much as possible. So again, obviously it's not great for video recording, but if you don't need to be using your brightness, go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to turn it back on for ending this video. I'm going to turn my brightness off or back on to auto brightness. And what the auto brightness does is this: if you're going out in the sun, it's going to know you're in the sun. It's going to automatically adjust. This uses your battery actually more than you know. So turn that off and crank your brightness down. And that's the 10th and final tip. I hope you enjoyed that video on the 10 tips to preserving your battery life. And I hope you all have a great day.